The childhood friend trope can be emotionally powerful. Growing up together with a person close to you, beginning to feel your emotions bloom, taking the risk to confess your heartfelt feelings, and finally, pursuing that intimate relationship further beyond being simply friends. It's an emotionally compelling story told time and time again. Hoshizora no Memoria, Wish Upon a Shooting Star, takes the childhood friend trope and uses it as its core. Hoshizora no Memoria, or Hoshimemo, tells the tale of two individuals forcefully separated as children, to which they make a promise to meet again underneath those starry skies. And after many long years, our main character returns in search of the girl and hopes to fulfill their long-awaited childhood promise. While the childhood friend trope serves as Hoshimemo's core foundation, there are many stories that this visual novel has to tell, all of them connected underneath this vast, all-encompassing starry sky. Welcome to the August Tale, and I want to help you find something great to read and experience. So today, we're going to be taking a look at Hoshizora no Memoria, Wish Upon a Shooting Star. The visual novel starts off with a short prologue. As a young child, Kogasaka Yo had always spent his nights with a young girl at the town's local lookout. Upon learning that Yo would move out one day, the two children made a promise to meet each other again in the future at the lookout underneath the stars. It's been several years since then, and Yo has returned to the town after the recent death of his mother. That night, he goes to the lookout in search of the girl, and instead, he finds a girl whose appearance is the exact mirror image of the girl from his memories, holding a scythe and proclaiming to reap his nightmares. There are lots of heroines within Hoshizora no Memoria, so let's begin our roll call. In our large list, we have the passionate and carefree Asaho, the resident classic tsundere Komomo, the calm but teasing Kosame, the snappy and antisocial Aoi, the overly friendly little sister Chinami, and the mysterious Grim Reaper Mare. The routes are limited to you upon starting the visual novel. Initially, there are 3 routes available to you: Asaho, Aoi, and Komomo. Once you clear Aoi's route, you unlock Chinami's route, and after you clear Komomo's route, you unlock Kosame's route. Once those are done, the last 2 routes are unlocked. There are decisions throughout the common route that will affect which heroine you pick, and once you finish each route, more decisions will be made available to you. For every subsequent playthrough, an indicator will be shown on what previous choices led to each route. With each route you finish, there also will be added content put into the common route, but don't worry, as the text skip button will stop at these new moments. It's recommended to go with Asaho, Komomo, Kosame, Aoi, Chinami, the true ending, and Mare in that exact order, as each route builds on top of each other. I've left a link to a guide in the description down below if you need any help with the route decision choices. Before we go into each individual heroine, let's talk about the production, because overall, it's very good. A majority of these songs have a lot of classical piano, synth, and organ in them. The soundtrack crosses the spectrum of moods from calming and relaxing to somber and melancholy, some of which I would keep for personal use, just playing in the background for the atmosphere. There are some standout tracks in this visual novel that carry the scene. These tracks are themed around the celestial spiritual vibes, fitting the space and ethereal aesthetic while also still retaining the melodic tones of anime-style theme songs. Some of my favorite songs are Futari no Mirai and the arrangement of the opening Eternal Recurrence. Despite being a visual novel with its most critical scenes at night, the special CGs used are as bright as the stars that light up the night. Each of these CGs creates a vivid and striking scene as the characters are placed full focus, shining in the moment. The strong character designs are also a huge plus. All of the character designs are distinct and attractive, helping each person uniquely stand out from the backgrounds and each other. The design also aids in making the characters expressive, wonderfully suiting their personalities, from Aoi's snarky smile, to Asaho's dejected pose, and to Chinami's entire existence. If there's anything you should take from Asaho, it's that Asaho is a great childhood friend with a really well done childhood friend route. Out of all the members in the astronomy club, Asaho is the most passionate about the stars. She's very upbeat and proactive to openly share her interests with others, whether it's talking about the mythology of the stars or how to operate a telescope. She's as passionate as a certain other character in a particular visual novel. Her energy is also apparent whenever it concerns Yo, as she's the happiest around him. So it's a big mood change whenever we see her depressed, pessimistic side. These troubled thoughts swirl around her as she continues to interact with Yo, and we are made fully aware of this as we switch over to her perspective, as Hoshimemo often does throughout the visual novel. Asaho's route covers the feelings one has towards a first love or crush and explores this in a manner befitting Asaho herself. I absolutely love how she's framed within this romance. The visual novel presents a well-executed childhood friend love triangle between Asaho, Yo, and the Lookout Girl. Asaho's feelings on the matter are deeply empathetic, and it's because of her compassionate love that ends up being self-destructive, working against her. So when our main character, Yo, finally comes to terms with this situation, the conflict wonderfully dissolves itself on an emotionally satisfying climax that I can forgive its cheesy prose at times. And the route doesn't end there, as in Asaho's route we get to further understand the origins of her love for the stars. While not completely necessary, this last act adds a nice little sprinkle to the narrative, adding in more world building details about unspoken feelings and family. Even outside of her route, after losing in every other route, Asaho is still very supportive of Yo and his relationship. Asaho just takes it like a champ and continues to be as cheerful as ever. It's fine though. She's the only girl with 3 H scenes. Heyo! Asaho's voice actor, Yuimoto Michiru, does a great job balancing her friendly, passionate side with her embarrassed, nervous side. It's an effective shift in tone for her character that fully displays how much Asaho is conflicted about her feelings. Her sprite work here is the most fitting and telling of her character, from her hunched, over-eager pose to her dejected pose with her face glancing away, back turned towards us. Overall, my favorite character in the whole visual novel. Komomo easily fits the mold of the tsundere character type. Funny enough, despite being actively against the Astro Club, she's a lot more agreeable and understanding than some of the other heroines at times, which makes the build-up to the relationship more natural. But what begins as a simple relationship leads to a wild ride that no one would have expected. Komomo's route falls into that rabbit hole of the supernatural to experience a story that conveys a great sense of suspense and thrill that deeply engages us in the mystery of Komomo's deep hatred for the stars. Komomo's route is the best example to describe the methodical and elaborate planning of Hoshimemo's plot. Hoshizora no Momoria's writing is more deliberate than it appears to be. Throughout many moments, the prose is carefully crafted to drop subtle suggestions and hints about characters that allude to their specific route and the big picture. Hoshimemo teases these details to an almost irritating extent, with how much it pussyfoots around the topic. The benefit of this is that it gracefully builds up tension, but damn, the amount of foreplay is so frustrating at times. Komomo's story is a collection of characterization featuring her twin sister Kosame, her mother Monica, and their friend Setsuna. Anyway, her route goes into her family background of being shrine maidens and the responsibilities that come with it. It's a strangely detached departure from the boy searches for first love and joins Astro Club plot, but it does explain the mysterious circumstances that happen, presenting the supernatural in a logical way, as odd as that sounds. Kosame is intended to be played after Komomo's route and works as an epilogue, concluding the twins' story as a whole. And after reading Komomo's route, this route ends up being a strange combination of supernatural electromagnetic theory, playful teasing / flirting, and somber melancholy tones. Like seriously, if you thought Asaho was put in a tragic situation, Kosame is if you took that tragic heroine dial and turned up to a 15. Despite being a very supportive friend and a member of the Astro Club, Kosame herself is hard to crack. For the other heroines, they are more defensive subconsciously, but here Kosame is very adamant about her personal space, as shown by her classic catchphrase. Throughout the visual novel, we are slowly hinted at these signs and why she has an unyielding defense, and it is only through her sister that we can understand her sentiments. All we know of Kosame is her fun and teasing personality, and her slightly aggressive infatuation with her sister, which may or may not be a cheap joke, as well as her slightly murderous sadistic side. Aoi is a tough person. She's the most antisocial one out of the group, and with her sharp tongue, is largely defiant at all attempts for her to join the Astro Club. But attempt after attempt, Once Yo finally cracks open that shell of hers, Aoi goes through the biggest character transformation out of the cast, from aggressively savage to delicately vulnerable. Aoi is just straight up disagreeable to a fault. Only through the cracks of her little sister and her attraction to the stars does she slightly ease up. Her antisocial personality is the core of her route, and Chanami's over-friendliness and Yo's meddling is the beginning of her eventual change. Her route explores boundaries and distance in relationships. With Aoi closing her heart to others, it's up to Yo to befriend her, but he fails constantly.
I've come to bargain.
You've come to die.
Like with most relationships, there's a barrier that separates a regular relationship to something more intimate, where if nothing is done, both parties are in that state of a status quo of nothing changing. You can never get to truly know someone unless you are willing to cross that barrier. Yo desperately tries to get Aoi to open up, and a large part of her route is dedicated to this push and pull battle between the two. So when Yo is finally victorious in his efforts, the feeling is so emotionally gratifying. Aoi's route is also significantly different from the other routes in how it isn't solely dependent on Hoshimemo's supernatural elements. This is mostly regarding Mare. Mare doesn't appear often in this route, which avoids the failsafe solution to most conflicts. Here though, Mare's singular action actually becomes a trigger, having the complete opposite effect, leading to a complete 180 of Aoi's character behavior as she becomes more emotionally distraught. From Yo's perspective, Yo can't rely on Mare or the supernatural to solve his problems. He legitimately has to confront a human problem to finally cross that barrier to Aoi's heart. From Aoi's perspective, she's largely a realist, so incomprehensible concepts like Mare won't work to convince her otherwise. This is her internal problem, and she has to resolve her side of the issue. Aoi's route is a thorough character arc, showing Aoi as she goes through a full personality transformation to love others. She's my favorite route in the whole visual novel. Chanami fits the token little sister character, and she takes that family status and wears it like a badge of honor. Lots of her energy is devoted to her overwhelmingly bubbly and friendly attitude, a personality that is so attractive and bright that it compels people with her presence, all at the expense of Yo's and my own sanity at times. But behind those feelings is an intricate and complicated family situation spanning multiple generations. Here, in Chanami's route, Hoshimemo finally highlights the adults in the visual novel through moments of retrospective. All of the adults are connected as alumni of the Astro Club, and as a result of the current members, they are all forced to recall their memories of the people that are no longer with them. From the historic urban legends of the school, to the personality of Yo, and to Chanami's mother, this family situation is a strongly rooted foundation that this entire plot thread can function as its own side story. While Chanami's route has its own merits, Chanami herself holds the spot as my least favorite heroine. She breaks the record of the fastest character for me to immediately hate from the moment she opened her mouth. Props to the voice actor Chanami, Fujimori Yukina, because she nailed her character, sounding very annoying. My other concern is that her dialogue is so systematic to a formula. Chanami does something dumb, Yo retards with a snarky comment, and Chanami reacts, complaining back. It's not restrained to just Yo either. You can use any other character to substitute, and this back and forth dialogue would happen exactly the same. There's no real substance in any of these interactions, and they can be cut off from the visual novel and it wouldn't have any effect on the overall plot. But after spending a lot more time with her, the little gremlin, she's not that bad. She has some legitimately great moments that are just so in line with her personality that it just makes her shine even brighter. And of course, we cannot forget about our resident Grim Reaper, Mare. Surrounded in mystery, her role in the story, as she proclaims, is to reap nightmares. Nightmares have a significant meaning behind them, and each person in Hoshimemo has them, so it's Mare's job to reap them. But for such a dutiful job, she is by no means an obedient person. In fact, far from it. Mare is the most disagreeable and rebellious person in Hoshimemo. Even more than Komomo's tsundere traits and Aoi's antisocial attitude, Mare is just very difficult. Her stubbornness lasts all throughout the visual novel, which ends up falling into the same opinion I have about Shinami. Annoying in normal conversation, but redeemable when it matters. Her role is shrouded in mystery throughout the entire visual novel, and all the pieces come together in the true route, despite the true route's questionable and flawed ending, unfortunately. There is a fan disc named Eternal Heart that does expand more on the last two routes, which may help tie up loose ends. However, considering at the time of this video, the fan disc isn't out yet, I'm left disappointed from the main story's ending. And with no knowledge besides what I've just told you, for future-proofing, I'm recommending to pick up the fan disc along with the main game. Hoshizora no Memoria is as expansive as the starry night sky. Hoshimemo shows us the past experiences of our cast of characters, each holding very fond moments and experiences. But these memories can also serve to hurt us as well, so much so that we can even call them nightmares. And yet, it is because of these nightmares that when we seek to overcome them through personal strength and the recognition to rely on others, that we can grow stronger and happier with our beloved friends and family. However, while intensely conveying its messages and being thematically sound, the conclusive ending, on a logical level, is a traitor to the visual novel's own methodical planning sown throughout the story. It's a spontaneous conclusion that stretches your suspension of disbelief even with the supernatural thrown in the mix. Overall, I'm a bit divisive about where I stand on this visual novel. I enjoyed the stories of these characters and I had fun watching the cast interact, but there are faults that I can deliberately poke at that stop me from highly recommending this visual novel without a second thought, and the ending left a really bad aftertaste in my mouth that even now I'm still thinking about. It all depends if you want a collection of really good stories versus a standout momentous ending. So let me say this, even with its faults in mind, if you can get behind the characters watching them overcome their nightmares, you'll be rewarded with many emotionally gripping stories. It was hard to put a definitive score on this, but after lots of deliberation, Hoshizora no Memoria gets a 4 out of 5 from me. Subscribe if you liked the video and want to see more. Check back every week for new content. For more of my thoughts and the most up-to-date news on videos, you can find me on Twitter @TheAugustTale.